So something that's very important in our lives, I mean, eventually, let's just keep it real, JRock, we're all going to pass away at some point. We have an expiration on our life. We don't know if it's today, tomorrow, next year, 20 years, 40 years. We have no idea. And so planning for life after death, not for you, I mean, because we're going to be gone, but for your family, for your friends, who's going to take over your assets, right? And I've been to a lot of funerals and seen a lot of families where they're fighting over who keeps the house and who keeps the cars and who keeps this, that. Is just so many things. And it's because there was no plan in place to solidify who gets what. No will, no trust in place. There's all kinds of things going on. Now, JRock, I don't ever want you to pass away. I want you to live forever.
Yeah,
but you have some assets that I would like to be taken over. So I don't know if you have a will. Do you have a will?
There's a lot of people that would want these assets, by the way.
The assets. not those assets. You got a lot of wrestling memorabilia.
I do, man. Yeah. No, I don't know. Right now, I don't know who would get all that. Maybe either one of my brothers or maybe even my godson, maybe. But whoever did, man, they're going to have a good collection. I'll tell you that.
So you don't have a plan is what you're saying.
I don't have a plan.
You have hope and an idea, but you don't have a plan of who's going to get what because you don't have a will in place.
That's correct. No will in my life. So that's something I'm going to learn today. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, man. So without a plan, the state often decides who gets what. Your property. So if there's taxes involved, the state of Texas, whatever
they would take my memorabilia and
possibly
sell it and take my money.
They possibly can. We'll find out.
Okay, I'm not liking this. Already.
Mostly, maybe not memorabilia, maybe, but mostly like houses, things that are owned.
Who's our
outright.
Who's our governor right now?
Greg Abbott.
So Greg's gonna be walking around with my John Cena championship spinning belt.
Hey.
I don't like this already.
So estate planning is less about death and more about protecting the people you love, man. It's about protecting them, protecting your wealth, protecting your assets. And it's not only about wealth, it's about the people you love. That's what estate planning is.
Yeah.
It's not about money. It's about medical decisions. There's healthcare directives that we can talk about, powers of attorney in case you get sick and you can't use your hands, or if you're not in your right mind, somebody can sign for you on your behalf for monetary things or whatever, man. So there's a lot that we're going to discuss today, but having a will and a plan is part of it. There's something called probate, which is the legal process of the distribution of your goods or your assets. So we'll talk about probate. And me being in real estate, we deal with sometimes people that don't have a will and who's going to keep the house and who the house belongs to, 30% here, 40% here. There's all kinds of different scenarios that come along in real estate, especially when somebody doesn't have a will. So it goes to an attorney and they kind of figure out legally the chain of events that happened throughout the person's life. Were they married before?
Yeah.
Were they divorced? Let me check out the divorce decree. Does it say that so-and-so keeps a quarter of this or half? So there's a lot involved.
You can get a percentage of a house?
Yeah, because if you sell, and maybe I'm speaking out of line here, but if you sell, somebody gets the portion of that money. So that's kind of how I think they divvy up the percentage
that's kind of crazy
scenario. Yeah, so there's all kinds of different stuff.
I thought it was gonna be like, I got this percentage of the house, so you can't go cook.
So you got this room,
and
I got the backyard.
Yeah. Take a shit on your lawn, not mine.
Yeah, don't use this bathroom; it's off limits. Yeah, so there's a lot involved, man.
That's crazy.
And today we have the honor and privilege of having an attorney at law. He's here in local New Braunfels with the Davidek Law Firm. We're friends with the Davidek Law Firm staff and ownership. Great, stellar organization. These guys not only keep it real, but they take care of people. I've seen a lot of reviews. They got a lot of credibility. Their entire staff has insurmountable credibility within the area here. And they know what they're doing. They have a slew of attorneys and very, very smart people that know how to take care of what happens after you pass away. So assets, wills, trusts, healthcare directives, so on and so forth. So without further ado, I want to introduce my man here, the man with a plan. So before I introduce him, I also want to say he's a sports fan. He's a drummer. He's an avid drummer, scratch drummer like in golf. Scratch golfer means you're pretty damn good at golf. So I'd say he's a scratch drummer. He's been around. He's my age. I don't want to date him, but or date, give away his age. But he's a pretty badass dude, and I trust him. I just met him recently, and I trust him. And we're going to talk about my assets later offline, and how I can get started with estate planning and wills and testaments and all these different things. So he is an attorney with the Davidek Law Firm. He's been doing this for a while, and he is my friend, Robert S. Harrison. What's up, Robert?
All right. Thank you, Johnny. That was a really nice intro, man.
Oh, thank you.
That was really nice.
And we're dressed kind of the same.
Yeah.
T-shirts, man.
Same age,
Yeah.
same style.
Yeah, because when you hear about an attorney, I was expecting you to come in here, Robert, with a suit and cufflinks and.
That is not me. No, I avoid the suit at all times, just like I avoid the courtroom at all times.
Good.
If I can. I've done that before. I'm hopefully retired from the courtroom. That's our whole goal here.
Yeah.
At the Davidek, we're trying to keep people out of the courtroom.
Right.
So that's the reason why we started this law firm. So
It's pretty easy to get yourself in the courtroom, isn't it?
it's very easy to get yourself in the courtroom. The first thing you can do is do nothing.
Right.
So if you do nothing, you're guaranteed to be in the courtroom.
Right.
And I think it's important that you brought up that estate planning is more than just what happens after we die, because it's real easy to die. But guess what? 90% of us are going to end up in some kind of incapacity.
Yep.
So if you don't have the proper documentation to deal with that, not only are you going to suffer, but your family's going to suffer, and they're not going to be able to have the tools to help you, maintain the status quo of what's going on in your life. So
Right.
just because you're incapacitated doesn't mean you need to be, your state of life, your quality of life doesn't have to suffer
Right.
because you're incapacitated.
Right.
So I think it's important you brought that up
right,
as
right.
well.
And it's important for people to understand, and people can probably relate to what I said with when you're at a funeral and you see the families fighting. Even before, if somebody gets sick in the hospital, they start fighting about who's going to take what. And I know me growing up, we were never brought up with, hey, Will. My parents had life insurance, so life insurance is a part of it.
Absolutely.
You need life insurance to give people less of a burden after, because it's a very burdensome thing when somebody passes away, especially the father of the family, the grandfather, or whoever, and you have to now live on past that legacy. You have to make sure their assets are in place.
Absolutely. Life insurance is going to be great for people they're cash poor, but
Right.
they're real estate rich.
Right.
Because if you pass away and you don't have any money to help facilitate the transfer, then you're going to end up having to sell the property in order to make the transfer happen.
Right.
Which is kind of counterintuitive of what the person who passed away would have actually wanted to
Right.
have happen. So, with JRock, you talking about your memorabilia, I can tell you the most likely outcome of what would happen there if you don't have anything in place is that people are going to fight over it. So there's gonna be people in your life. There's gonna be family. This happens in almost every estate where one person will show up. It's kind of a race to the house.
Yeah.
To go and categorize and catalog everything in the house. Things start to go missing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what happens. People they lose these relationships that they've had their entire life because of the petty
Items.
I'm gonna write a book one day. It's something to do with grieving the loss of a loved one mixed with assets and the
Jeez.
transfer of assets. It's proven that cognitive abilities actually decline when you're grieving, and so you're not thinking clearly when you're dealing with the loss of a loved
Yeah.
one, and so relationships are torn apart because somebody does something that the other person doesn't like, and back and forth. And then these people just never speak to each other ever again, and it's really sad, and it shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And really,
Dang,
the only
that's
thing that
crazy.
stopped it, or the only thing that caused it, is because the person that passed away didn't plan properly.
The only unique thing about that is they'd be fighting over wrestling belts, so it works out pretty well if you think about it. But
That's awesome.
And people's personal items, no, you don't want that happening, right? So that is pretty sad, though, that people get to that level of whether it's fighting or
We bring up
know?
funerals. We get calls all the time in our office from funeral homes going, "Hey, we've got two people fighting in the lobby over what happens to mom here. We need some clarification on what's supposed to happen here. And if you don't have that document that says this is the person that takes care of this is the person that takes care of that." Yeah,
So the funeral home needs all the documentation too, because they have to keep everything in file.
absolutely.
And-
do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be buried? What's the memorial service like? Where are your remains going? All those things need to be decided.
Yeah, there's so many things. It's not just assets. So you're right. I always tell my wife, I want to be tossed into the ocean as chum for great white sharks.
It's a good way to go.
And I don't know if she believes me or what, but that's how I would like to go out.
Maybe it's something to do with our ages, because that's exactly what I want
Yeah,
too. So.
yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean,
We saw Jaws when we were little.
Yeah.
And that's just
So, hold on. So let me ask you this: so you're willing to do that with your ashes, but are you willing
no
to get
chum, not ashes.
What do you mean chum?
They chop me
Okay.
up in little pieces,
Okay, and then they toss you
and
in.
they toss me into the ocean.
So would
and
you
then
do-
you see all the sharks just coming up. And
Would you go in the ocean now?
no, hell no. Dude, I'm scared of the
That's
ocean,
exactly
man.
where I'm at too. That's exactly where I'm at
I'm
too.
scared of the ocean. I love the ocean. I love everything about it.
Okay.
I love watching these National Geographic shows and about the sharks and jellyfish and all this.
Yeah.
But I'm scared shitless. I love cruises.
Okay.
But dude, if shit hit the fan and I'm underwater, I'm holy cow.
I won't even go to Schlittermunk.
No. But I just love the premise of the ocean. It's very I mean, it's like a whole nother dimension.
one.
It's like outer
majestic,
space.
yeah.
Like you love aliens and outer space?
Yeah.
I love the ocean. And there's so much stuff that's not been discovered under the ocean.
That's just funny
well.
though. It's like saying I would, with wrestling, I would die in the ring. Like a Ric Flair, I would die in the ring.
I will never retire.
Yeah, exactly, right. But then you're like, you could throw my pieces or ashes in the ocean, and then you're just not willing to go shark. What do they call it? Shark
Bait or shark chum.
Yeah, but I know, but when you go, when they put you in those cages and the freaking sharks are around you, man, screw that stuff too, right?
Yeah.
But I thought that was funny, man.
I just saw something on TikTok where the U.S. Navy was tossed in a coffin over the deck. I didn't know that was a real thing.
Wait,
Yeah.
whoa, what?
So the
That's what they did with Osama bin Laden.
right, he got buried at sea, right? But can a regular Joe? Can they? I mean, have you seen that on
no. Not legally. I mean, people do it, but
Okay.
not legally.
People do it.
Because if it was illegal, then they'd be in court,
It's right.
Oh yeah. Well,
or whoever
I mean,
allowed it.
disposing of remains is a very regulated area, as it should be. With that in mind, I'd say about half the people that walk into my office say they want their ashes spread in the river here in New Braunfels.
Here in New Braunfels.
So next time you're going swimming there, just keep that in mind.
Or smoked. Has anybody ever requested to have their ashes smoked?
Smoked by a person? No, I've never had that one.
What is it?
I've never had that
The
one.
movie How High, right?
How high?
He
Yeah.
smokes his friend, and then they can
Yes,
see
I
him,
do
man,
that.
right?
I think that's where I got it from. Our scary movie.
Yeah, scary movie
Yeah.
as well.
But anyway, man. So I told you this show is gonna go anywhere, man. So this show is designed this specific show. It can be informational, educational, which we're gonna do, and we're kind of doing that right now. A little bit motivational, motivate somebody to go and talk to a probate attorney like yourself or others. It as long as you get that help, we'll talk about motivation, and then a little bit of entertainment. So we're gonna go back and forth and talk about some stuff, and we're gonna talk about your story.
Yeah, I mean,
a little bit more, but
motivational. One thing I will say is a lot of people, and we were talking about it before we even came on here today. A lot of people think estate planning is like an old person game, right? So I'll take care of that when I get old, kind of thing. Well, the problem with that is that most people that are gonna get stuck in a really bad situation are the people that are gonna pass away earlier,
right.
that have children, young minor children that can't inherit, these kinds of things. Who's gonna take care of those kids? So really, the people that are most needing to come see an estate plan attorney, obviously older people, but people that have young kids, young families. They are prime people that are in need of these kind of documents, because if something goes wrong, and it does go wrong, if something does go wrong, then their family's going to be really stuck in the mud.
So you bring up a good point, Robert. So I've heard where grandparents leave a home to like a 10-year-old.
Yes.
Legally, a 10-year-old can't own a home. So
Right.
what happens? So who would?
So what would
take the
happen
home?
is, if they did not have a trust that the property was being held in for that minor's benefit, what would happen is the court would establish basically a testamentary trust. So you would go to court, you would probate, and a trust would be established for that child, which is going to cost a fortune, because anything in court costs a fortune. And then once that child turns 18 years of age, they get this windfall of assets.
So nobody gets it until the kid turns 18.
Right.
It just stays there. Right?
It just sits
It's
there,
idle.
and it's the court stuff. They're going to put somebody in charge to manage it. It's an attorney ad litem is what they're called.
Okay.
And that personal management, you don't get to choose who that person is.
Okay.
So that person could be one of the worst attorneys on the planet. Not all attorney ad litems are terrible, but there are some that, they're basically just sitting on the couch playing video games and doing the bare minimum. So do you want that person running the estate for your child's life? And again, when somebody turns 18, it's usually a really bad idea to hand them over a windfall of assets. I mean, you guys were about the same age. I mean, I know what I was doing when I was 18 years of age, and had I received something like that, I would have squandered it.
Right.
I would have attracted the wrong elements. I would have not gotten any kind of education or any experience, and then I'd think I was rich for 5 years, and then I'd be broke and 23 years old. So,
Right.
yeah.
Decision making and things like that. And this show is pretty much about decision making and how we can help you with that. So you made the decision to become an attorney at law. Right?
I did, yes.
So where were you in life? Well, you were how old when you started this?
Wow. So I actually started late. So I started about 31 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first part, I grew up in San Marcos, Texas. We've got a lot of mutual friends, as we were discussing earlier. But right out of high school. So high school, I was like, I was a straight A student, 4.0. I was voted most talented. I was captain of the soccer team, played baseball. And then at night, I was playing in a band. And I was going to bars, and I was drinking, and I was smoking, and I was doing all these other crazy things. So it was a very interesting way to grow up, right? Because that's probably why they voted me most talented, because I was smoking at night and getting up and doing straight A's, right?
Right.
And so when I turned 18, I just decided, you know what, college is not for me. I'm going for it. And so I went for it, and I became a drummer professionally, toured all around, the U.S., playing shows everywhere and doing everything. And, about 26, 27 years of age, I started to get a little tired. Plus, I was broke all the time and just traveling. And I remember I was in Chicago, Illinois, and I was negotiating a contract for playing a gig at their venue. And I was sitting up in this, this office. All these venues have these like offices on the second floor. They're all tiny and dark. So I went up in there, and dude, we're going back and forth on the negotiations for about 30 minutes, and then at the very end, he pours a drink for us, and he's like, "Man, have you ever thought about being an attorney?" First time it ever came into my brain.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Attorney?
Yeah. So and I was just like, that's a really interesting idea, right? And so about that time, like I said, I was getting a little tired. So I came back to San Marcos, went to Texas State, got my undergrad degree over there, and then went to St. Mary's over here in San Antonio. So that was
It's a very good school. Both are very good schools.
yeah. So that's kind of my start of my second career.
All right. So
Yeah.
he asked you if you thought about being an attorney. And so what happened? Because you had never even thought about it. So did you just say, yeah, that's a good idea? Or you had to change the trajectory of your life?
Yeah.
You had to, do an extreme pivot.
It was almost instantaneous.
From smoking and being an entertainer, playing drums, to going to school again, because you said school wasn't for me. And how was that drastic change for you? Did you go all the way through?
It was amazing.
I mean, obviously you went all the way through, but did you go consistently?
Well, so I don't come from a wealthy family, so I had to put myself through undergrad. And so what I basically did, I came back home. I got a job working with cognitively disabled individuals.
Okay.
So they kind of live in independent living houses, but they have people staying with them and cooking for them and that kind of stuff. So what I would do is I would work there from about 9 o'clock at night to 7 in the morning. And then I would wake up, I would go to class. And then after class, I would sleep during the afternoon and then wake up and go back to work.
A lot of naps.
So that's how I got through undergrad, was doing that kind of work, which it's been a blessing in my life because it's helped me formulate the trajectory of my life, that I didn't just want to be an attorney. I wanted to be an attorney that actually helps people.
Yeah.
Because what people don't understand about law school, you don't go to law school and you go into a courtroom and start, like figuring out how to be a lawyer. You spend 3 years in law school studying old cases about, this attorney wrote a brief, and in the brief, he used the word "and" instead of "or," right? So what they're teaching you is they're teaching you how to be a writer, how to be a legal writer and a legal order. And so what happens is most lawyers get out into the real world and they've learned this, almost like this magic, that they can say a bunch of words without ever saying anything at all.
Word salad.
Yeah, it's just legalese for, I'm not going to tell you anything, and I'm never going to show you my hand, and I'm never going to work with you. Mm-hmm. That's what most lawyers do. So it's just kind of a magicianship that they're working on. I don't like to function that way. I like to be direct. I like to work with people and solve problems. And so that's where it came to be that, estate planning, I met the right people. The Davideks are tremendous people. They're cogs in the community. They do all sorts of charitable work, community work, wonderful people. So we clicked real easily like that. But they're also real interested in helping people.
Right.
They're not about just trying to charge up these legal fees and trying to make people fight with each other.
That's how they
to actually solve the problem.
That's how I love that. I love them, and I love a lot of people who are not just transactional. Mm-hmm. You're truly trying to help the community and help others. Of course, their law firm is how they make a living.
Of course.
However, they're truly in it for the people. And I love that about you too, because you helped people when you were in college, and you helped entertain as well. That's a certain level of helping, right? You help people, ease their Friday night, Saturday night, whatever. But then when you get into helping people directly, you said you were helping people who couldn't really help themselves. That's a whole nother element of helping people.
Yes.
And then you being in school, in the actual classes, reading these contracts or all these key words. So those key words can completely change everything.
Absolutely.
One single word. We've seen this throughout. I've seen it throughout my adult life, where one word changes every damn thing. And so you, as a lawyer, you have this background of paying attention and being strategic and being very fine-tuned with what people say. And when people ask you to read contracts and things, you know exactly what you're looking for, because there is a lot of key words in these contracts. A lot of it is mumbo jumbo that'll never, ever, ever happen.
Well, if you've ever been in a lawsuit before,
yeah,
you've heard of this thing called discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Discovery is basically each side asking each other questions. Well, they'll ask a direct question, and then the answer that comes back is always, we're not going to answer this question because it's too vague or not relevant or whatever. It's this game that they play.
Yeah.
So they just keep going back that way, and they never learn anything about the other side's stance on the problem.
Right.
So the problem's never solved.
Right.
So they'll either plea it out and somebody will just get tired or run out of money, or they'll go to court and the judge solves the problem. So I don't want a judge solving anything in my life.
Right.
I mean, the judges here are wonderful people, but they don't know anything about me.
Right.
Right? So why would I want them deciding what happens to my estate or, any person in my family?
Yeah, because it's one person's opinion or one person's mindset.
Right. Yeah.
And they don't know you from Adam, and they're going to make a game-changing decision on your behalf.
Yeah.
So let's go to the school, because I know a lot of people growing up, they're like, man, I'm going to be a lawyer when I grow up. I'm going to be a doctor. It's not easy. There's a lot of school, a lot of studying. So when you go into the school, is it just like when you're first going through, is it a vague thing where I'm going to be a defense attorney or a prosecutor, and then you're going to specialize in estate planning and probate? Or do you go specifically into estate planning and probate from the start?
First year, everybody takes the exact same courses.
Okay.
So it's contracts and property and torts and constitutional law and criminal. So everybody takes those, and that's when you're supposed to be deciding like what you want to do. Now, pretty much everybody I know decided what they want to do the second year, never did what they wanted to do. Right? It's pretty typical of any school, right? They go through it, they find out, this isn't actually for me. The first thing I wanted to do was family law. I wanted to help people. Well, I found out real fast that I didn't want to sit around arguing about the silverware all day long. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So I decided that was not for me.
Are JRock's wrestling shirts?
Yes, his wrestling shirts.
Or my shirts. Yeah, right.
So yeah, I mean, when I got out, I was practicing consumer law, which is basically, lemon law on cars, things like that. Kind of lost, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and that's when I found Davidek and worked out great. So I'm really happy where we're at.
Yeah, they set you up for success. And we got some comments here. Ben Marungo, he's one of our producers here. He says he loves the Davideks. Yep.
Most people do, yes.
Yep. Beverly and Dirk, they're class acts. So
Yes.
big shout out to those guys and everything they stand for.
Yeah, hopefully. I think they're actually driving back from Terlingua right now, so hopefully they're listening.
Nice. You got Kylie Self here. She says, "Go Robert."
Hi, Kylie.
Yeah, Kylie's a big deal too. She's big in the community and does some phenomenal work. So let's go back. So I'm just trying to. I mean, you're an intriguing guy, and a lot of people don't have this kind of story. You go from playing drums, and let's go into the music game a little bit.
Okay.
You're not just some regular drummer, just kind of playing basic songs.
No.
You're going in there advanced. You have an advanced skill set. Have you played with any kind of famous bands, like on a Cameo or anything like that?
The most famous band I ever played with, let's see. Man. Well, we talked a little bit about Mike DeLeon. Yeah, he played with Soulfly right now. He's touring out with Pantera. So we definitely jammed with him. I actually officiated his wedding.
So Pantera, I mean, they're a pretty big deal.
They are a pretty big deal, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we opened up for Sepultura. I've opened up for a lot of different bands, like a lot of different genres.
Right.
What's the guy that sings The Devil Down in Georgia? Charlie
Daniels Band.
Charlie Daniels Band. We opened up for them one time. So, I mean, you brought it up earlier about cross genres and things like that. I love that.
Right.
I'm a huge music aficionado, so I'm not just kind of polarized into one area of music. I love all different types of music. So, I mean, I'm going to see Ray Wiley Hubbard this weekend.
Yep.
Snake Farm. I'm going to go, Snake Farm, and then I'm going to go see Metallica, a couple months, So it's it's an eclectic viewpoint. So
I love how we can mix, just like genres. I talked about it earlier. Country can mix with pop, and rap can mix with grunge or whatever, but law can mix with music.
Oh yeah.
Right? On this show specifically.
Yeah.
So music can mix with anything. We see music everywhere at the Final Four. Yep. On your phone while you're driving to work. I mean, just music is in us.
Yes.
What's your favorite genre of music?
Oh, like I said, man, I would not ever want to say I have a favorite. Now I can narrow it down to I love thrash metal.
Okay.
I love the 90s. We were talking about that earlier. The grunge
thrash metal,
era.
Helmet, Megadeth, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Love those bands. Punk's pretty fun to jam out to. I've been getting into country because my girlfriend loves country, so she's kind of sprung it on me. We went and saw Willie Nelson. Dude can jam like nobody's business.
How was the crowd there? Were they all
They were
high?
amazing.
Were they all high? High. Yeah.
Yes.
You can't go to a Willie Nelson
a lot
concert.
Of them are high, yes.
You can't go to a Willie Nelson concert and not smoke some hay, right?
Yeah. Even if you're just standing there, you're going to get a contact.
You're going to smoke.
For sure.
Even if you don't smoke.
Yeah. So, I mean, music is universal.
Yeah.
Right? As long as there's some kind of feeling that's been put into that music,
yeah.
That's what I relate to. When I play in a band, it's like being in a relationship with 3-4 other people.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you can make that work and create something new, then, you're succeeding in life.
Absolutely.
And so that's reflected to the crowd. I used to play in bands where, especially when we were trying to make money, where we were not really liking each other too much. And it was reflected into our shows. And those bands started dissipating because we did not have that energy, that vibe. It's something that's just tangible about the connection between the members of the band. So, you can really tell. That's what I like in a band. Doesn't really matter the genre that they're playing, as long as they're cohesive and really, vibing with each other.
Right.
So
Yeah, the relationship and the vibe is great, just like in families fighting over who has these assets. In music, there's egos involved as well.
Yes.
Although the people usually think the lead singer is the man, but sometimes it's the drummer, sometimes it's the bassist or guitarist. Look at Van Halen. It wasn't about what's the guy's name, the lead singer?
David Lee Roth.
David Lee Roth or
Sammy
Mick Jagger.
Hagar.
Sammy, I was going to say Mick Jagger. Dude, it was Eddie Van Halen.
It was Eddie Van Halen and Alex for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
in the bands that I play in, that in the past there has been a little bit of problem there,
Right.
Because I am an active drummer, and if I'm playing with somebody that has an ego, that's a guitar player specifically or a singer, that can kind of get in the way of their moment, their spotlight. So in those bands, that I learned that was when I was younger, and I learned that's probably not the band that I'm probably going to want to play in. Right?
It's kind of like estate planning as well, because you're going to have to figure who's going to take the band after. If I leave, what's going to happen? There's legacy involved and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
To a smaller scale.
Well, you brought up all these bands and what's going on in music today. Well, I have a theory about it, and that is that when things like, specifically, it was what was it? Napster.
Napster.
Napster came. That was the first one, and then Apple, and then Spotify.
That all was these Lars with Metallica didn't like Napster too much.
Metallica. Who was it? It was. It doesn't matter. Who? Pearl Jam. That's who it was.
Yeah, Pearl Jam.
They were fighting against it.
That Eddie Vedder.
These platforms have taken abilities for these people to make money. Mm-hmm. I mean, it'd be like if HEB was selling groceries and then all of a sudden a company came out and said, "Oh, you know what? We're just going to give everybody groceries for free."
Yeah.
Now what does HEB do? The only thing that the option that the bands have are we can sell T-shirts because our ability to sell CDs and music has been taken away from us. So we can sell T-shirts. We can raise the prices on our shows. Mm-hmm. So when somebody says, "Oh man, I can't believe I'm paying $100 to go see this band," well, they have to charge that in order to stay in the business. Their ability to make money was taken away from them, and so it gets exhausting. I mean, that's what happened to me. I went from I want to do this for the rest of my life professionally to, you know what, I'm just going to do it as a hobby and not try to make money off of it, because I know trying to make money is going to be very difficult. So it was a very strategic decision to just shift over,
And it's funny because there were lawyers involved in that whole Napster thing.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so lawyers and music, and look at you, you're a lawyer and a musician.
Yeah, and I bet you they didn't solve any problems because they were doing their little magician speak.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So whatever happened with that, with the Nap? Did they? I mean, I'm sure. I mean, they got rid of Napster.
Well, the corporation's obviously one. If you're like a regional band, let's just say the band I'm playing in right now, we may have 1,000 hits on Spotify a month. We might get that. We might get a check in the mail for 17 cents. I mean, that 1,000 people a month that listen to that, they would have bought albums. They would have done all spent the money somewhere else.
Right.
But instead, and I don't blame those people. Of course, I listen to Spotify. Of course.
What, about $3,000 right there?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a lot of money to be taken out of their pockets. Yeah.
So I always wondered this too. I never got deep in the weeds in it. So Spotify, people pay Spotify, and you can stream all these bands.
Yes.
How do the bands make money off that?
They don't.
They don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Like I said, and
At
let's say
all?
like
They get
probably
nothing?
Taylor Swift is probably the most listened to in the world, right? Mm-hmm. She probably makes a couple $1,000 off Spotify per month. I mean, it's impossible to make money from there.
So she has to make it from her own, her merch, her
Or ticket sales.
ticket sales, CDs. If anybody still buys CDs, I mean, is that still a thing?
Vinyl still
It's coming
around.
back.
Yeah.
Right?
But yeah, CDs not so much.
I almost bought a Black Sabbath cassette tape the other day at the flea market just to buy it and
Nice.
be like, dude, this is, I didn't buy it because I was like, man, I'm gonna see if somebody comes around and buys it, just to see how that would go. But yeah, and then I bought like a Space Jam VHS movie, just to buy it, just to kind of keep it as my collection. But think about that, man, cassette tapes and all that stuff. They used to make money off of all that. The artwork and everything else. I couldn't wait until the next album would come out to see artwork on like Metallica and stuff.
Yes.
So now
There
we're
are-
missing out on that.
There are still purists like myself that want to hold that album and take the cellophane off and look at the inserts inside there. Absolutely. I would have been the one fighting over that Black Sabbath tape.
Dude, let me tell you something. So I spent a lot of money on these tapes and CDs growing up. They were $14, $15
Exactly. Yeah.
growing up,
Yeah.
right? And the tapes were $9.99. I remember that. So one day we had a garage sale. My wife took about 200 of my CDs
No.
and sold them for like $5. And if she's watching, I'll never forget.
I'll never forget.
I'll never forget that. You sold at least $2,000 worth of stuff for $5.
Yeah, and I always worry. I mean, we are relying on this thing called the internet to supply us with all sorts of stuff. What happens if the internet goes out?
Yeah.
Yeah. What if somebody turns it off? I want to still have my music.
What movie was that? Was it I Am Legend? When the world ended and he had that one, was it one song he listened to all the time? Was it I Am Legend? Or
It's like the Will Smith movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he had his dog.
Yeah, I think it is I Am Legend. My point is he only had one CD because, obviously there's no,
Right. And he had no way to play it.
There's no way to play it, yeah.
No, I always keep a couple spare CD players, couple spare tape players, even VHS. I keep all those in my house in the closet just in case.
So JRock, on your will, when you make one with Robert here, put me on for the Black Sabbath.
For the Black Sabbath?
Yeah, tape.
Hey, well, see, look, it looks like you didn't have a will for all those CDs, so
Yeah.
Jess is like, these CDs got to get out of here.
So let's go. I know we're kind of all over the map here, and we are going to be kind of
So
going back
can
and
I-
forth.
can I just add something
Go
real quick?
ahead, JRock.
Okay, so it says that music artists primarily earn money from streaming through royalties, which are a percentage of the streaming platform's revenue paid out based on the number of streams their music receives. So, you could be Drake and you're probably, like you said, you're still not making a lot of money. Streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music distribute royalties to right holders, artists, labels, publishers based on number of streams of their music gets. Yeah, I guess it just depends, really, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So Spotify might give a penny for every $1,000 or 1,000 downloads or something.
yeah,
maybe.
it's usually
because you got to
it's
make
like a penny
something.
for each 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said,
wow,
we've
that's
received
crazy.
checks for 17 cents before.
Right.
Like, what am I supposed to do? I'd frame it, put it on my wall, and just giggle about it every day. Yeah. So, it took away a lot of revenue from the small time. And then, the larger acts, they don't need the revenue from the streaming. They're making it off their ticket sales.
I think Taylor Swift, is she the highest right now for ticket sales? Because I was wanting to take my daughter to a Taylor Swift concert. They're like $2,000, and I can't just send her by herself.
yeah.
I got to buy at least 3 of those things.
Yeah, I think so, man. If you talk to my girlfriend, she says it's worth it. So
Yeah. So she's a Swiftie?
she's a Swiftie. I know.
All right.
We're
Are you a
very-
Swiftie?
I am not a Swiftie, but I will wear the shirt when I play in a metal band for sure.
And you get some...
I get so many compliments about it. So many people coming up to me like, "Oh, I can't believe you're doing that as well." So it's a fun shirt to wear. So
Yeah, I wanted to talk more about the probate stuff, but let's stick on music for right now.
Sure.
Who are some of your biggest influencers
As a drummer,
as a drummer or musician?
so man, when I was a little kid, Nick Mensa, Igor Cavalera, even Lars.
Okay.
These are the big four. Dave Lombardo from Slayer.
That's Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, those are the Mountain Rushmores. But, when you hear those guys playing drums, it's thunder, and I want to be that,
Have you got to meet them?
I've met Dave Lombardo. Nick Menza passed away, unfortunately. I have not met Lars, so no, just Dave. He's a cool guy though.
Yeah.
I met him in a club in Austin, actually.
Okay.
Headhunters Club. Just sitting at the bar. It was
A lot
awesome.
of man around here. We're all blessed because there's a lot of live music, and up at the Moody Center, a lot of bands are coming now. I haven't been to the Moody Center. I know you have, JRock.
Plenty
I
of
heard it's a beautiful facility. I've passed by it. I went out there for a competition for my daughter, but we passed by it. I'm like, holy shit! I need to.
That
need to come out
surprises me they haven't been in that venue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw a show there, The Misfits.
Okay.
And Suicidal Tendencies. Y'all remember that
Yep,
band?
yep.
Yeah. So they were
I
great.
saw Smashing Pumpkins at the old Moody Center
Yeah.
before
Yeah, a
they
couple
moved.
years ago.
I saw it in '97.
Oh, yeah.
Melancholy and
they
the
just keep
Infinite
going, don't
Sadness
they?
when they first came out with that. He, Billy Corgan, who's one of my I love Billy Corgan. He came out with the big wings and stuff, and Bullet with butterfly wings, and
Yeah.
I mean just going to town.
Well, I'd say, graduating from that band Tool came out with Undertow and I think it was like 94, 95, somewhere around there maybe. That guy. I find Tool to be kind of boring now, but in the beginning, it was such a refreshing style of drumming. So I literally listened to that album for a year straight and just learned how to play those type of. And that's where my progressive kind of complicated style would have extended from. I mean, now it's all over the place. I mean, shoot, I listen to Elvin Jones. He's the drummer for John Coltrane. Roy Haynes or Dale Crover. There's so many different drummers out there that I love now that it's.
Dude, I think the drummers are underrated, man. Kind of like in football, the offensive line. Without the offensive line, you can't pass the football or run the football.
Yeah,
Without the drummer, you don't have that percussion.
it's the foundation.
It is the foundation.
Yeah, it's the beef.
It's almost just as important as the vocals.
Yeah, you got to have a good bass player along your side.
Right.
Well, you don't have to, but it helps.
Yeah.
you in line.
So there's no one key position on a band that's more important than the other. They all are in unison, just like in sports.
Absolutely.
You need them all.
Absolutely.
But I think the drummer is very underrated.
I mean, it's the guy that's sitting in the back that nobody sees.
Right.
So that's probably where that comes from.
Often in the shadows,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, he's throwing up the drumsticks every once in a while, and
Yeah, but I don't mind. I mean, if you have a certain style, a certain flair, then people notice you. So
yeah,
But being in a band really isn't about being in the spotlight. It's about spotlighting the band itself.
right.
Right. So again, that's my taste in music. So when I play in a project, I'm not looking to get accolades. I'm looking to write good music that's going to connect with people so that after the show, they can come up and talk to me and we can have relationships and conversations and, understand how this affected their lives.
Absolutely.
So that's really where I come from, pretty much in anything that I do in life. So,
I love that, man. You're a jack of a lot of trades. So let's get back into the what you do for your primary livelihood, man, and helping other people with their livelihoods. A will and a trust. What's the difference between those two things?
What the heck are these things? Yes. All right. So I was listening to you talk about probate, and you defined it when you first started the show today. I'm going to add to it a little bit.
Okay.
So what I think of probate, what I think it really is it's a lawsuit that you file against yourself when you die on behalf of creditors. So if I could just die right now and I could leave all my stuff to my girlfriend, then all of my creditors would just be left in the wash. They would never get paid. And so basically the state of Texas has said, we need to protect people's creditors. And so what happens is they freeze your estate when you die, and they don't let anybody touch your assets. So what happens, your body goes to the morgue or it goes to the cremation service parlor. Within 48 hours, they notify Social Security that you've passed away. All the banks, all the financial institutions, they monitor Social Security. So when that number goes red, notifying them that person's passed, all the accounts shut down. So within 48 hours, your bank accounts, your financial accounts are going to be shut down. They're going to be frozen until we get through this process called probate, which is defining who the creditors are and how much money they're owed. So while we're going through that, all your assets are frozen, so your kids or your beneficiaries are going to have to pay for that process. Probate's expensive. So they got to pay your bills, because guess what? Your mortgage company doesn't care that you died, so they're still going to want to get paid. So your kids are going to have to pay your mortgage. They're going to have to pay your bills. They're going to have to pay their own bills. They're going to have to pay the court costs. They're going to have to pay an attorney like me to go through probate. It gets really expensive real quick. So what happens, I see this a lot, where people just say, you know what, I can't afford any of this, so I'm just going to let my inheritance be taken to the state. And that's where Johnny was talking about how the state can end up with your assets. Perfect prime example, because people can't afford to get through this process. So in Texas, and one thing I want to, enunciate here is that in Texas, if you don't have anything in place at all, or if you have a last will and testament, you have to go through probate. So the will does not prevent you from going to probate. The will allows you to leave assets where you want to leave them. So that's step one, but we still have to go through probate with a will. So a lot of people don't understand that. So that's one of the most misinformed areas in estate planning, is that, oh, I have a will, I'm just going to be fine. We won't have to go to court.
And so nobody has to, let's say there's a family and nobody's really fighting for any of the items or anything. Everybody just kind of agreed to where it goes. Do you still have to go through that?
You still have to go through that process. Everybody's got to go through the same process. You could have no creditors at all. You still got to go through that process. Process takes about 6 to 9 months on average. Costs about $5,000 on average. And if that's a long time to be paying somebody else's bills.
Is there any way to bypass probate?
That's going to be, here's the thing that I would say that is most important in estate planning. Because a trust theoretically bypass probate. Absolutely. That's the whole concept. The whole concept is I want my assets held in trust so that when I die, we do not have to go to the court. Because what we're doing is we're basically taking the assets out of our names during our lifetime and putting them inside this trust. So I own a house. I deed my house to my trust. When I die, I don't have anything in my name. So therefore, theoretically, I do not have to go to probate. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter what I give you. I can give you a trust. I can give you a will. I can give you a pay on death beneficiaries, ladybird deeds. There's all these different tools, affidavits. If you do not keep up with your estate plan, it's going to fail. This is the most important thing I've learned in estate planning. Estate planning is not a one and done thing. If you do not keep up with it, which most people don't, because they're not taught that this is something that they need to pay attention to. They're taught, oh, I'll just get a will and I'll be done and I'll never have to think about this again. The moment you get that will, your assets are going to change. The moment you put things into a trust, that first time you put things into a trust, do you think your assets are just going to stay the same for the rest of your life? No. Do you think the law is going to stay the same for the rest of your life? It's not going to.
The law changes with different legislators and Congress people and
Absolutely.
Federal, state. There's so many things involved.
Yeah, so anytime, and this is the most important, anytime any lawyer says, yeah, all you need is a trust and you'll stay out of probate and you'll be just fine, most of them are lying to you. That is the difference between what we do and what most other attorneys do. And I'm probably making some enemies out there, but I don't really care, because this is really important. People will sell you things that on the face of it, it sounds like a wonderful idea, but in reality, they're not teaching you how to use them. And if they're not teaching you how to use them, you might as well have died with nothing in place at all.
Yeah. Do you think some of these people get that way because they're like, oh, these people are going to die for 30, 40 years, Do you think that's why they do that sometimes?
Well, the cynical part of me will say that I think some lawyers will sell you a trust promising you that you'll stay out of probate. One, because the trust is more expensive than a will, so they're making more money on the front end. And then two, they know that if you don't keep up with it, you're still going to have to go through probate. So guess what attorney the family's going to go to when the time comes that they need to go through probate? They're going to go to the guy that's already, or the girl that's already created the trust or already created the will. Yeah. So they get repeat business from it. I'm not saying all attorneys are rotten apples. Mm-hmm. There are great attorneys in our community, absolutely. Yeah. but you have to be on the lookout for people selling you a dream. Remember I said attorneys come out of law school, with this magician speak, right? And so they can sell you into these products that aren't really what they seem on the face of them. And that's kind of the difference between what we do and what a lot of other attorneys do, is that we actually will continue to work with you over time. So if you did create a trust, for example, we would align your assets to your trust for you, and then we would meet with you every year. And we'd go over everything. We'd keep a running list of the assets, and then we'd help you, okay, you made a mistake here. So we get everything aligned. That's the most important part of estate planning, is we've got to have everything aligned. Otherwise, when you die, everything in the book's just going to be irrelevant to what's going on in your life.
Yep. You just wasted time, effort, energy, and
Money.
and
Yeah.
all the above. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Absolutely.
What are the common mistakes that people make that you see? You said trusting the wrong people sometimes, but are there other things that people can possibly avoid?
I would say that not being clear, so trying to control from the grave, is a mistake that people do a lot. I can create the world's greatest trust for you. It can have every single thing that you want. I want my house to go into a separate trust, and I want my kids to get it when they turn 36 and a half, but they get the income from that. And, when they turn 36 and a half, it goes here and here and here. But if they're, doing this or that, then they don't get it. I can do that. That's fine. But guess what? Life is going to change. Those kids are going to change.
That's kind of tough.
Yeah. And so when they die, there's all these restrictions on the assets. And so overcomplicating things can definitely be a problem. Not picking the correct fiduciary. Fiduciary is just a word that means a trusted person. So your power of attorney is a fiduciary, your trustee or your executor of your will, that's a fiduciary. So not picking the right person. I have to pick my oldest son because it's tradition, right? The oldest son has to be the person that takes care of this. And I don't want my family to feel slighted. Well, guess what? If it's not the right person, then the whole family's going to fall apart.
Yep.
So we need to be very careful about who we choose to put in these positions of power, because they have a lot of power. The trust does pass outside of probate. So that means that the checks and balances, the only checks and balances that exist are the ones that you put into play yourself. So it can be very dangerous on that front as well. So I do like, there are companies that actually will serve as a trustee. So if I say, I want to hold my house in trust until my kids turn 25 and this person's going to control it, you can put a company in charge of that. And the company, they charge a small fee, but at least it's going to be done right.
Right.
And there's not going to be bickering and infighting. Because think about it, you name the oldest son to control everything. What are the younger kids most likely going to think? Oh, well, mom and dad loved him more than me, or he's an idiot. I don't want to work with him, and
Causes friction.
it's just so much friction everywhere. It's a dangerous game to be playing. So
this probate process, I know it's kind of expensive, but I know it takes typically a long time. Mm-hmm. How long is a long time?
So if I create your will and I know that it is buttoned up and as solid as it can possibly be, it's going to take us from start to finish about 6 months to get through. When you have a trust, an aligned trust with your assets, and you pass away, what happens is, let's just say you have a bank account. I got a Chase bank account. Well, when I die, the Chase bank account is going to have a list of the people that can come and claim those assets. So the trustee of the trust. So what happens is that trustee, all they need to do is they need to get a death certificate. Mm-hmm. They bring it up to Chase Bank. They show the death certificate. Chase types in, looks at the account, looks at the certificate that we've given them and says, okay, so-and-so is first in line. Let me see your driver's license. They prove that they're that person. It's immediate access. So it's the difference between 6 months going through probate versus 2 weeks waiting for a death certificate. Okay. So it's a very efficient, facilitated process. But again, it doesn't work if we don't have everything aligned. So that's kind of the crux of estate planning. Again, I can create the world's greatest documents for you, but they're not going to work unless we keep up to date with them.
Right. And a lot of that is there's technology involved today with people's assets.
Oh yeah,
And that's a new kind of phenomenon, isn't it?
yeah. Crypto's still the Wild West.
Stocks, even social media accounts and things like that.
Yes,
Have you
all
seen any
these-
instances like that?
Absolutely. So all of these companies, especially crypto, they're designed to be a deregulated currency. But we need regulations to understand how these assets pass. So if you pass and you haven't addressed it, there are no rules. And so you may just lose that asset. Same with social media. Social media are very protective of privacy. So it's very difficult to get into somebody's account once somebody has passed away. So again, transparency and clarity about all these things. These are all the little different things that you need to make sure you've got lined up.
Yeah,
That's why I say, come see us. It's part of the process.
Robert, have you seen on Facebook? I've only seen it on Facebook where if you pass away, somebody can take over. Like, who do you give your social media account to? Have you seen that?
I have not seen that, no.
Have you seen that,
I haven't
JRock?
seen that yet.
Yeah, I
That's
got a
crazy.
notification one time. Hopefully somebody above is not counting down the days on me. But it did say, who do you trust with your social media account? And I put my wife on there.
Really?
But yeah.
I've not seen that.
I haven't seen
but
that either.
I'm not married either, so maybe maybe they target
Maybe they're like
part of the
since you-
algorithm.
Since you're married, or they see your married status, they're like, we just want to make sure,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they seeing some of my activity out on the town?
They're like, we see what this guy's doing. We want to make sure somebody's got some backup on this
Somebody's
guy.
backing this guy up.
Heck yeah, man.
So
Yeah.
yeah, Robert. There is a lot of things, and we can get into weeds on a lot of different scenarios and things. But we can kind of just put it in the Cliff Notes version. People fight over estates. People aren't prepared for dying. They're just not.
Right.
And we can rectify that with people like yourself, smart people like you, attorneys, estate planning attorneys, probate lawyers. The Davidek Law Firm is here for you, whether you're in New Braunfels or even in the San Antonio area. Where do y'all cover?
So we cover as far as Houston. We do a lot of business in San Antonio, Cibolo, those kind of Spring Branch. Obviously, Comal County, we cover that. Guadalupe, Seguin.
Can you cross states?
We can, well, legally you have to ask permission,
Okay.
but we don't do that.
Because you're probably licensed in the state of Texas.
No.
Is that why?
Correct. Yes. So you have to be licensed in the state that you work in. You can ask the state for permission to work a case if you want to. That's really just not going to be applicable in estate planning because a trust is a universal document. So I can create a Texas trust and then I can move to Florida and hold assets in my Texas trust in Florida. So a Florida piece of property can go into a Texas trust. So there really wouldn't be a need to do any kind of casework in Florida. What happens is we just hire an attorney to do the deed.
Right. Okay.
They file the deed into the Florida county records. Yeah, I would say that with a trust, it's not just about passing away as well, because think about like I addressed earlier, it's a lot easier to die than it is to become incapacitated. Mm-hmm. So what if I'm married and I have a house in my name and my spouse's name, and then I pass away or I become incapacitated, or if I become incapacitated, my spouse is going to want to say, oh, well, maybe I need to downsize. Maybe I need to, go into assisted living because we've reached that point, or some kind of senior living community. Well, the house is in both your names. Guess what? Both of you have to sign in order to sell that house. But if one of you can't sign, then what do? There's so many different things that can go wrong if you don't have the proper documentation. A power of attorney is not going to help, or it's going to help you through that, but it's not going to solve the problem. So you really do need some kind of ability to manage assets on behalf of another person while also having a power of attorney, which allows us to make decisions on things like paying bills and dealing with tax authorities and Medicaid and Medicare. So you couple those two combined, then you really have some tools that are available to deal with incapacity. And that's really, incapacity can be the hardest thing of all to deal with.
Right.
So you've got to be prepared for that one.
There's just a lot of different elements
Yes.
And I know it's confusing for some people because we've talked about probate, which is a process, a will and a trust. Those are tools. Power of attorney is a tool. We haven't even got into the health directives.
Right.
Do you guys get into that at all?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's part of an adequate estate plan for sure. Healthcare, power of attorney.
Can you discuss that a little bit for?
Sure. The documents that we do is a healthcare power of attorney. So, a power of attorney is basically a document that says if I am unable to make my own decisions, these are the people that can make decisions for me. Okay. And you can name multiple people. You can say, I've got all three of my kids and majority rules, or they all have to agree, or only one of them can work independently, that kind of thing. So there's a healthcare power of attorney. You couple that with an advance directive, also known as a living will. And this is the document that says, well, if I'm in a vegetative state, what do I want to have happen here? Because if you don't address that, think about the position. So if you have a child, think about the position that you're putting that child in. They either have to make a decision that they're going to pull the plug on their family member and essentially let them pass, or they're going to make the decision that this person is going to stay on a life support system even though they're in a vegetative state. I can tell you firsthand, neither one of those answers are a good answer. And you're going to live with that for the rest of your life. So advance directive is really not about you and your choices. It's about not having someone that you love have to make that decision about you. So that's an imperative that we put that into place. We do guardianship nominations, which is just really a long-term power of attorney situation. A lot of times when you have a power of attorney, if you are incapacitated long-term, what will happen is a hospital, a doctor, someone will get wary about relying on that power of attorney because, again, the law changes. Mm-hmm. And so that doctor may say, you know what, I'm not going to rely on this thing anymore. You need to go get guardianship. Well, guardianship is just court-supervised power of attorney. That's really all it is. So it's the court saying, okay, we're going to approve this person working for you. So you need to have that document because guardianship's worse than probate. It can take a long time and be very frustrating and cost a lot of money as well. Mm-hmm. HIPAA, obviously, is a law we have to address. So we do HIPAA authorizations as well. So again, all these documents kind of work together to make sure that if we end up in that situation, we've got everything covered.
I'm glad that we have resources like yourself, Robert, and the Davidek Law Firm, because this is a sensitive subject, touchy subject that a lot of people know and understand, but they just don't know how or who to contact. And now we have you, Real Deal, here in our studio today talking about this kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be my estate planning guy because we built a relationship here on camera. And those of you watching, this guy knows what he's talking about. He can guide you through. He can set you straight on different scenarios, different outcomes, possibilities, things like that. And most people, I'm making up a number here, about 99% of people don't know what the hell any of this stuff is.
Yeah.
Because they know it's there, but they don't know how to get the information.
Absolutely.
And they're reluctant because of the price points and things like that.
Well, part of our process, how we make this more comfortable for people, because we recognize it is a very difficult topic to discuss, and it can be bringing up a lot of sore and open wounds. So part of our process is when someone contacts our offices, we invite that person in to have a sit down with us. There's no obligation. We don't charge them anything for that meeting. So we sit down, we get to know them, we get to know the problems in their estate, what they're worried about. And if we can help, then we start working towards a plan together. If we can't help or we just don't feel like it's a good fit, we can refer you out. Or, you can leave our offices with no obligation. So that way it just kind of, it's not just about, okay, we're going to charge you $400 an hour to come in and talk about what the heck estate planning is, right? It's building a relationship from the very beginning. Because again, I'm going to reiterate 1,000 times, we need a long-term relationship here. We need a long-term commitment that you want these assets to be aligned with your values and your wishes when you pass. So, yeah, it's all about relationships for us.
Absolutely, man. So let's talk about relationships. How have the relationships that you've built enabled you to become successful?
Well, I mean, I would start with the Davideks.
I know that's a broad
Yeah.
question.
I mean, I would start with the Davideks. You know, they're benevolent people. You know, when I first met them, they were heads of different types of charities like Room Redo. I don't know if you ever heard of that one.
Room Redux?
Redux, yeah. You know, Beverly was on the board there, and they were helping people build houses for, you know, people that are not affluent at all. Dirk's in the Comal Conservation Alliance. You know, we just went to we did a shut the entire office down, and all of us went out to the food bank and volunteered for a day. That was our Friday. So these are the types of things, you know, we've aligned values, and it's reinforced each other's values. I hope I've reinforced theirs, that this is not just about, oh, we need to build this empire and, you know, take over Comal County, you know.
It's value for value. So the relationship you have with the Davideks has enabled you to build more relationships throughout the community.
Absolutely.
And it's just a building block. And you're doing that for
Absolutely.
families as well. Because you're helping to alleviate stress and burdens as well. And they're looking at you like, man, this guy really helped us out.
Absolutely.
And it helps grow strong credibility and relationships as well.
Well, another part of what we want to have happen is we want to get to know their financial advisors. We want to get to know their CPAs. We want to get to know their family so that everybody's working together. And through that relationship, we've found people in the community that we work with that have the same value system as us. It's actually how I found my girlfriend. You know, she has the same values as our firm. And so we started working together. She's a financial advisor. I'm an estate planning attorney. We are now have a network for our clients that they know they can rely on, because it's not just one stranger who, you know, they've met 3 times and they don't know anything about. You know, we're working together with all of their team. It's a network. So that's the most successful an estate plan can get. And it's not just the estate plan, right? It's taxation. It is financial, especially right now with everything gloom and doom, you know, on the financial side. People are stressed out. And so we need to be there to reassure them, you know, we've got these things covered. We can do different things and present options for them.
People are really sensitive with money right now.
Yes.
And the future of money. I won't get into that, but it is a growing concern. And people are just scared of what's going to happen next.
Absolutely.
And having people like you, resources like you, and I speak about this all the time, Robert. We're building relationships throughout the community, not only on camera, but we're helping people out there who are watching and beyond by having individuals like yourself come on. Influential leaders, credible leaders who are industry leaders as well in their respective field. And it helps everybody. Hell, we've been educated today just by having you on will, trust, probate, estate planning, things like that. And I'm going to pick your brain even after the show and beyond so I can get more educated, so I can help other people with their, I mean, of course I can't help them too much because I'm going to refer them to you, but I can at least talk candidly about my experience and my referral partners as well.
Yeah, and absolutely.
JRock's learned some stuff too, and this is why I love having this podcast platform, because we have the ability, and I firmly believe, Robert, if you have the ability to help somebody, it's your obligation to do so. And if you are voiding out that obligation, then that's a foul on you, and it's just a shame that you're not out there helping other people, because we all have the opportunity to help other people, and you're doing it here. You're a personal testimony that you with your band, and you weren't thinking about attorneys, and those are the things that people like hearing about. How the heck did you get started by being an attorney, and how did you get started in a band and beyond? Because this might be a stepping stone for you, or this might be everything for you. I don't know, but it's definitely a scenario where you are now helping people with their money, with their legacy, with their relationships, burdens. You're minimizing burdens, minimizing stresses. I mean, holy shit, Robert, that's a big deal, man.
I appreciate that. And you know, a lot of the common questions I get are, well, how can you promise me you're going to be there for the rest of my life? Well, that's what we have planned for. So Beverly is the owner partner of this law firm. I am the equity partner in the law firm. she's a little older than I am. She's going to want to retire at some point in her life, in which case I will step into her shoes and then someone will step into my shoes. So the entire goal of the firm is to continue to be able to guarantee that we will be there for your family. We recognize that we are making promises to these people that we are going to be there and help them through it. So we have that obligation to put a structure in place that actually allows us to do that. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of what we're accomplishing.
I love it. I'm proud of you guys too, man.
Yeah.
Let's kind of go into, let's pivot a little bit, because I know you're a sports guy as well.
I can talk about sports, yes. I got a great question for you.
Okay, I'll let you ask first.
Okay. I was actually talking about this with some people last night. I have never understood the concept of loyalty to a sports team due to geography. So where I grew up, I know you got a Spurs hat on right there. So where I grew up and the sports teams I like have nothing to do with each other.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in San Marcos.
Okay.
Yeah. In Texas.
Who is your basketball team?
Right now it's the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Okay.
And it's been that way since they came to Oklahoma City.
So the Seattle
Kevin Durant.
Supersonics.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right.
I actually wasn't a Seattle fan.
Right.
But I loved the Harden, Westbrook, Ibaka, Durant team.
That was a good squad.
It was such a good. I mean, it's so frustrating that they never won anything, but it was such a fun watch, and I always just really loved that team. So I'm really psyched right now. But
so your question is, you never understood why people love a sports team who is geographically inserted into where they grew up.
right, I mean, I feel like I'd be tortured if I was that way and lived in Dallas. You know,
So
I feel like that would just be
how I live
awful
my life today.
torture.
So I think about that like with Dallas Cowboys fans.
Yep.
San Antonio people hate the Dallas Mavericks, but love the Dallas Cowboys. Of course,
There you
now
go.
I
Yep.
understand. I understand big scheme. There's no pro football team in San Antonio. I get it, but I can't stand the damn Dallas Cowboys. And
Neither.
I grew up here. I'm a LA Rams fan
All right.
by virtue of my older brother. He is from Los Angeles, and he influenced me living here in San Antonio to love the LA Rams. So I'm dating myself, Jim Everett, Henry Ellard, back in the day, those
yes.
guys, Flipper Anderson, old school 80s, 90s guys.
What
So
was the name of that team? Didn't they have like a nickname?
Well, it was the greatest show on turf,
Greatest Show
but
on
that
Turf,
was later on. That was the St. Louis Rams.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I got to live in St. Louis, and I got to meet many of the players. Field goal Fisher, Jeff Fisher, and those guys. Kicks nothing but field goals. But I understand your question. I'm a Spurs fan because I grew up here, and David Robinson was my guy, and Terry Cummings, Rod Strickland, Sean Elliott, all those guys.
Sure.
Now, as I've gotten older, Robert, I've kind of lost my loyalty to these teams because the way I see it, those guys don't give a shit about me.
That's what I think too. Exactly. That's my argument.
When
here.
I was younger, I was like, oh, David Robinson, the championships, and okay, cool, they win, but
yeah.
I ain't getting nothing out of it. And I used to devote my entire Sundays to football all day long, and I lost opportunities. My wife would look at me like, dude, what are we doing? Just staying, watching this football game all day that doesn't mean anything. And I thought about it as I got older. I was like, you know what, you're right. What the hell am I doing? So I would devote a lot of time, energy, money. I would buy an NFL ticket, things like that. Now, I'll get an NFL ticket if it's discounted or something, sure. Because now I got technology. I got my cell phone. If I'm out somewhere, I can put the game on my phone. But yes, I understand the question. And sometimes to me, it's just your mindset and how you grew up and when you started liking sports.
Yeah.
And
you have
then-
some kind of
and
special
yeah,
connection
yeah.
to it.
So you kind
I
of
understand
stick
that.
with it.
I do.
Just like when I lived in New Jersey, when I was in the Air Force, there was a distinct geography of who liked the Jets, Giants, Eagles. If
Same
you
way in
lived
Chicago.
on the left side of New Jersey, you were an Eagles guy.
Yeah.
And if you weren't, you probably get your ass kicked. If you lived up north Jersey, you were a Giants fan. And if you lived Atlantic City area or on the East Coast of Jersey, you were a Jets fan. Mm-hmm. It's just
Those poor souls.
They did it all for the money.
a lot of money involved in that stuff and everything. But
Well, I mean, one of the associates at our law firm, he's a huge Steeler fan. Mm-hmm. And he gets on me all the time because each year he's like, what's your team this year? What's your team this year? And I'll stick with a team for a while. Like right now, I love the Bengals just because I love, the air show. You know what I mean?
Burrow.
Like Burrow and T and Jamar. I love watching the excitement that brings. Because they're going to have to air it out every single game.
So
'cause the
Robert, do you
defense
switch
sucks.
teams often? Are they giving you
I
shit for
do.
switching
Yeah,
teams?
I do.
All right, so you have no loyalty. You just like.
But so it depends, right? So OKC, I've been a fan for a long period of time. So it just kind of, I love the philosophy of a small market. I love the philosophy
The
of
underdog.
an underdog. So, yeah, so I often will go in that direction. And
So
then
you don't love the
finally
Cleveland Browns?
What's that?
You don't love the Cleveland Browns? They are an underdog.
No,
They make a lot of bad
There's nothing
decisions.
I
exciting
can't
going
root
on
for
over
a
there.
dumpster fire.
There's nothing exciting going on over there for you
Right.
to like them either. So
Exactly.
It's just like, I get your Bengals thing because, like you said, they're throwing the ball a lot. So
Yeah, so I'm excited to see what they could do. I mean, Spurs, when Ginobili was playing, oh my goodness.
goodness,
Love
yeah.
watching that dude play, Unfortunately, I'm a Westbrook fan, so you can imagine how much pain I go through.
yeah,
Ginobili was like a winner version of Westbrook. It was great.
Westbrook almost has a triple double with his turnovers too.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
add- you can add another
Quadruple
category.
double, yeah.
So I'm an old school guy, and JRock's heard me say this a million times. I like '90s sports, '90s music.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm stuck in a time warp, but I can't get with sports today too much. I mean, they're young guys, 22, 23, and a lot of them are putting their egos on the line and their political views and all that. And I'm like, why am I watching this? I want to watch you freaking play some ball.
Yeah.
And the NBA for me has become a 3-point shootout.
3-point shootout. Yes.
It's a lack of strategy. It's just going out there. Who makes the most threes?
Blame it on Steph Curry.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, yeah.
Everybody wants to be Steph Curry. You know what? I totally understand that. The thing that bothers me more than that in the NBA is going to be the resting, the players resting.
Load management.
Load management bothers the hell out of me.
It bothers me too because the fans are what it's all about,
Right.
and they're getting a disservice.
Yeah.
Because if I want to go watch LeBron James play, and I don't know if he's
Might
gonna,
be tired
if
or-
I'm gonna buy tickets 3 weeks from now, is he gonna play?
Oh, it's even worse.
Yeah.
What if I'm buying tickets at the beginning of the season when they release the schedule, and you're like, you know what, we're gonna go and travel that weekend there. Let's, you know what I mean. Then you go and he's not playing that weekend. That's even more disappointing. Because
Yeah, they estimated.
bye. You know.
Yeah.
I read an article yesterday. It was estimating that the guy from Duke, the flag,
Cooper Flag.
that when he hits his prime in the NBA, he's going to be making about $1 million a game.
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot of money to be resting.
Yeah.
You're still going to get paid that money, and you're resting. There's got to be some kind of
Yeah. there's gotta be something there.
penalization for doing that.
$82
Because
million.
I agree. I've bought tickets many times where people are load managing, and it just makes me not want to buy the ticket anymore.
Heck
You know?
yeah.
That's happened to me a lot of times. Or people, hey, I got these tickets for 2 weeks. I'm like, I'm out. I'm not gonna do
Yeah.
it. And nowadays, you see all these teams tanking too, losing on purpose to get. I mean, that's another disservice
That's
for.
what there's people
Yeah,
are
trying
saying
to get
that's what
the
the
ping
Spurs are
pong
doing
balls.
right now, so that way they can get
Well,
Cooper
they're
Flag.
kind. I mean, I can't confirm it, but they rested Fox, or not rested. They
Well,
sidelined him.
He's injured,
and
yeah.
they're doing a lot of load management with some of their key guys now. I mean, I can't prove it,
It's tough.
but I can see it, and it's happening with a lot of these bottom feeder teams.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
You can admit, JRock, that the Spurs do. I know they're your team,
Yeah,
but you can admit it, right?
yeah.
They're probably doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they are.
Yeah.
I really do feel like they are. And twice now that I bought tickets, Wemby wasn't playing. And that pissed me off. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then that's where I stopped kind of purchasing. And luckily, I've been blessed with, friends asking if I've been wanting to go, and I've gone. I didn't get to see De'Aaron Fox. That was another thing. I was like, oh, we'll buy some tickets next week, and we almost bought the tickets, and then De'Aaron Fox gets injured.
Yeah.
So it was just like, man, we're losing out on that. That's why, in some ways, I love investing in pro wrestling because there's so many guys on the roster. Even if one or two gets injured, at least my ticket's still worth what I'm going to go see. You know what I mean? So that's the tough part about that.
Yep.
You know, the entertainment and sports part. So
I think pro sports a little bit, and this is just my personal opinion, is losing a little bit of validity and credibility. So why in the heck am I going to invest my time and money into these guys when I'm not getting the value? Because we spoke about value several times. I'm not getting the value in return. I'm getting a subpar performance, and the players are not playing that I'm paying for.
Yeah.
So why am I going to do this? So there's sometimes Spurs are playing, I'll just flip to the channel.
Yep.
But before I had this loyalty, this extreme loyalty, Robert, where I'd be waiting for the game all day long and, butterflies and the anticipation and everything was there. But today I'm like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
What am I doing here?
yeah, it's getting expensive too.
And then you got Kawhi Leonard sitting down half the season and he's getting paid millions of dollars. Joel Embiid, what a waste of money. He's a phenomenal ball player. He can drop 50 at any given time, but he can also sit for 15 games in a row.
It's got to make you wonder, because it's almost like the players are, I don't want to say made of glass, but it's like they get injured more. It seemed like they get injured more often.
Ingrown toenail, I mean, it's
Right.
But do you remember back in the 80s and 90s, these guys would play with
Bill
NBA
Laimbeer.
players with neck braces and headgear and you put the goggles on if you got poked in the eye.
I don't remember a whole lot of injuries, but maybe that was just a result of them after the game going out and like drinking and smoking all night.
Yeah.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Jordan-
It's just like a different mindset.
Jordan smoking cigars and drinking all night. Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't hear.
It's a level of toughness there.
Yeah. So, and then today, these players, if you criticize them, if Stephen A. Smith is doing his job and criticizing somebody, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
These guys get butthurt and lash out, and then you have Kendrick Perkins on there talking crap to another guy like Charles Barkley, and it's definitely drama.
talking heads, yeah.
And if you like drama, there's a lot of drama involved.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think the NBA kind of stirs that up to try to get some kind of ratings or make themselves
Oh yeah, they
relevant.
need that because they get horrible ratings.
Kind of like the WWE, they're trying to make it like a little bit like that, an entertainment.
Yeah, 82 games is a lot of games.
Yeah, but I
You
remember
know?
back in the day, Jordan didn't sit out, Barkley didn't sit out, McHale didn't sit out, but you have these guys just fragile as glass.
Yeah, it's frustrating to me. But a lot of them are sitting out and they're not even injured. So it's just
and these guys are they're superior athletes than the guys in the 80s and 90s. They eat better,
Right.
they're stronger, they're faster, they're more they're precision athletes, they're specialists. Back in the day, you had people said plumbers. That was what the Laimbeer and the McHales and stuff.
Yeah.
Just big burly guys. But today they are precision athletes. They're built to play small forward or center or whatever. But now you have the centers shooting threes.
Yeah.
It's not that fun anymore. But I can go on and on and on about that about sports. I can go on about Popovich. I can go on about all kinds of stuff.
What do you think about the World Cup?
I don't get into soccer.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And you mentioned soccer
Yeah,
earlier. So
they're
what do you
coming.
think? What do you think about the World Cup?
I think the World Cup, the
I know Messi.
the Super Bowl last year, I think there was like 112 million people watched it. Every 4 years when the World Cup comes on,
It gets awesome.
over 3 billion people watch.
It's a worldwide sport.
It is huge. I mean, think about it. Super Bowl is huge. This is like 3,000 times bigger. So it's pretty exciting because the World Cup's coming to the U.S. next year. So we are hosting
Where's it at?
so they pick different cities. It's actually North America, so there'll be some Canadian and some Mexican
Okay.
cities. But there'll be L.A. I think 2 games are happening in Austin. I think so.
Really?
Yeah, 2 games are coming.
That'd be awesome, man.
Yeah, so it should be a wild ride, man. It's
so cool.
Should be fun.
How long does
I
that
suggest
thing
I
last?
suggest that trying to watch it. I know a
Yeah.
lot of people are not used to soccer. It can be boring because there's not a lot of scoring. But yeah, it's a beautiful game.
Gives me
so.
anxiety, man.
It gives you anxiety?
Like fun anxiety.
Yeah.
Like when I play FIFA, the video game. Oh, geez, like I'm on the edge of my seat because it's like, you know what I mean? And then when you finally score, you're like, oh, all right, here it goes again. But no, I think I didn't enjoy it. Nobody showed me the excitement of soccer when I was young. I started playing the video game like in Sega, but still didn't find it. And it was until later on in life I'm like, okay, I understand and respect this game a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, until I finally understood what it was. So.
Well, a lot of the problem is because in the U.S., football, basketball,
yeah,
that's
like
where
the
a
main-
lot of our prime athletes are going.
Yeah.
So that's why the U.S.'s team usually, I mean, it's in the middle of the pack. It's not terrible. You know, they're not Jamaica or anything, but, you know, they're probably ranked like 22nd in the world right now, which is where they usually are. But so many of our great athletes go into these other sports. Can you imagine what our soccer team would be like if we didn't have football? You know what I mean? So
Like,
I think that's probably the reason why a lot of people have a hard time getting into it. You know, it's because most of our great athletes go into other sports. So,
Dude, I love that soccer announcer, Mexican guy. Goal!
he's still kicking.
Is
He's
he?
still going. Yep.
Yeah, the guy, the one that's on, I don't know if it's the guy that's on FIFA, but the guy that's on FIFA, the video game, I've heard him on TV too, but I forget his name. But man, those guys, they're hilarious too, man. Yeah, they come up with quick, you know, stuff
Yeah,
to
look
say
clever,
as well.
like,
clever things to say. So it's pretty awesome. I like the World Cup. You can see the excitement of it, and then the games during the day. I love it all. I love the excitement of it all. I need to go catch an actual soccer game in Austin or San Antonio because I've heard that just those games are exciting.
The Austin
obviously.
FC is something else.
Really?
You will reconsider if you go there, at least as far as the excitement.
Yeah, the fan base
You know,
there is awesome.
It's a constant. So they have, 4 sides of a stadium. On one side is just the loyalists.
Okay.
So the whole game, they've got like a band, a bunch of drummers and flags and all sorts of fireworks and all. Just so much crap going on over there.
That's
It's
so
kind of
awesome.
scary to go over there if you're not used to it
to
yet.
It's like Raider Nation, kind of.
Yeah, except for every minute of the game, it's going on.
something.
It's-
Somebody's
yeah,
yelling.
so-
Somebody's
Yeah, it's a party for
That's
sure.
awesome.
So
Heck yeah, man.
fun game.
Who's your soccer team, JRock? Do you have one?
I really don't have a soccer team. No, I mean
USA though, probably right in the world.
I mean,
World Cup.
even when I play again, like on FIFA, I'm usually like Jamaica or Spain.
Brazil,
Jamaica's pretty good.
Brazil.
No, Jamaica's they're not good. So you're
Yeah.
gonna do Spain, Brazil, Argentina,
Yeah,
Germany.
what's the blue? Is it Chelsea?
Yeah, Chelsea's in the Premier
There you
League.
go,
Yeah,
Chelsea.
yeah. So each
Yeah,
European country has their own professional league.
yeah.
Okay.
and so that's kind of there's a lot of leagues. It's
Okay.
very
Yeah,
hard
it's
to
a lot.
keep up with.
I completely missed the boat and all that. Are you a hockey guy? Because that one dude I saw just broke the record last night.
Ovechkin.
Ovechkin.
Yeah, he beat Gretzky's record.
So is he now the great one? Or is
I guess so.
Gretzky still the great
I
one?
don't know how that really works.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
either.
I never understood hockey. Just like, no offense to soccer. Soccer's probably, it is a great sport. I just
Yeah,
never grew up
it's-
with it.
Yeah, I mean, same
say
thing.
Messi
Hockey, but have you ever gone and seen a live hocky game?
Yes.
And that can kind of
Yeah,
spark your
I'm
interest
just
in it
waiting
just
for
because it's
fights.
exciting.
That's
Yeah.
the whole point to me. Just waiting for the fights.
There's
If I
usually one.
If I don't see a
every
fight,
game.
I want my money back. Damn it, right?
Yeah.
Just like the NBA, you always want those big fights. The with Ron Artest and
Oh, jeez,
The
the
Palace,
balls.
the
Ben
Malice,
Wallace.
the Palace.
There was
Yeah.
just a fight the other day with the Pistons.
It wasn't
and-
much of a fight. It was a shoving contest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they got into a little brawl too. That guy, man, from Pistons, I think it's
Stewart?
Stewart. Yeah, that guy's just.
Is he a wannabe Rodman or wannabe Draymond Green or
I
something?
think
or-
he's just a sore loser, man. You don't do that. You're gonna
Yeah.
hurt somebody one day, man.
More like the
And the
Dylan Brooks
NBA's
of the
got to do
world.
something about that because, I mean, there was one game he was just shoving people like for no reason. It's like, dude, that's somebody's livelihood right there. That's somebody's career. That's, if that guy has kids, like, come on, man. Like, I think that's where it gets. I think it gets crazy. If you're just doing it for shits and giggles now, or because of your feelings, like, dude, you're gonna ruin somebody's favorite player out here. you
Yeah.
know?
Right. Then you got all the flops going on too. That kind of kills it for me as well.
In soccer, yes. Absolutely.
yeah, I was gonna
That's-
say.
That's the toxicity.
Yeah.
for sure.
In all the sports, you got the flops now because
I know.
you're trying to get that that flag or that
We
penalty.
were talking about that. What sport do you feel that you can't flop in? Obviously, tennis, because they're on the opposite side.
Hockey.
Hockey, because
Yeah.
you're gonna take that fucking hit.
Golf.
Golf, you can't do that either.
I couldn't believe Patrick Mahomes was doing that.
Oh gosh.
That flop in the playoffs where he just dove out of bounds trying to get a flag. Oh,
Well,
that was
LeBron
terrible.
James the other day,
Yeah.
he wouldn't even
Was he?
touch. Then
Oh, yeah.
Those
he
two are the worst.
He's
right
always
there.
done that.
LeBron and Mahomes are probably the worst in their own sports.
the inventor of the flop was a guy named Vlade Divac. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Vladdy?
The Bulls,
Vlade.
right?
Vladdy was the one that
Vlade
did it?
Divac. If you look up Vlade Divac, he's
I
and
remember
just
Vlade.
do a
remember
mashup of
Vlade.
his flops. Manu Ginobili.
Ginobili.
Vladdy Ginobili,
Flopped a
I'll
little
give it
bit.
to him. I'll give it to him.
Yep.
I used to, when people give me shit about Manu because of that, I'm like, dude, he was the heel of the NBA at that time. Okay,
Yeah.
he needed to do that.
Was that Manu when he had the flowing hair,
Yeah.
or was that when he was bald already?
No, he was. I think it was more like in his later years of the NBA, in there. I don't think he did that much. Do you know if he did that much?
Flops?
Yeah, like in the international, like in Argentina.
I don't think you can
have
flop
to
in the
look that
international
up.
game.
Yeah.
I think
have to look that
they'd
up.
call you out. I think, and I heard the NBA is cutting down on flops, but I don't know. There's just, I mean, it's just every play, somebody's bitching and complaining,
Yeah.
or they're flopping,
Right.
something like that, and tempers flare and all that kind of stuff, man. So, hey,
I mean, it's probably why you're losing interest. It's like a shift in the mindset of everything.
it's just gotten a little softer and weaker. I'm used to the the
money
old
comes
school
in.
Pistons and the microwave Vinnie Johnson and Mark Aguirre and Bill Laimbeer and when dudes were
That
tough.
name, man, I tell you.
I like when dudes were tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was no flops. Remember the Jordan rules?
Oh, yeah.
Jordan goes in the lane and he's going to get hacked every time by Rick
was a-
Mahorn or Barkley or somebody.
That was a brilliant idea by them, by the way.
Yeah, and
He was
it
torturing
worked,
him. Yeah.
didn't it? It flustered him, got him out of his game. And Dennis Rodman was good at getting people out of the game too. He was just it's a mental thing.
I got into basketball late. My favorite team, my first favorite team was that Piston team with Rashid,
Okay.
Chauncey, and them.
We
I really
played
liked-
them in the finals.
Yeah, I really liked that team a lot.
Yeah, that was a good.
so.
That was
They
like
were
the
scrappy.
early 2000s.
Rip Hamilton.
Rick Hamilton,
Ben Wallace.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben Wallace.
Ben Wallace. Yeah.
They had the two Wallaces.
I like the Pistons
Rashid.
from before. Isaiah Thomas, John Sally.
What do they call that crew?
That was the Bad Boys.
The Bad Boys. That's
Yeah.
what it was.
But I grew up
When
a
I go
Lakers
back and
fan
watch that,
too. I
yeah.
grew up a Lakers fan. L.A. My brother was a big time L.A. Lakers fan. Magic, Worthy, Jabbar, Byron Scott, Michael Cooper.
Did
all
you
those
ever
guys.
catch that? I forgot who directed and produced it, but HBO did this one series, maybe one or two series.
Showtime?
Seasons. Was it the Showtime?
Yep.
And they would show like what the Lakers were doing like back in the day.
ownership.
But they went pretty deep with it. They were showing them doing drugs and women and it was just crazy. I was like, are they really making this?
I think a lot of it was
Yeah.
over the top. It was just far fetched, but
Yeah.
some of it might not have been a little bit, too far fetched.
People were thinking it was too real, so they were like, "No, we're gonna cut this series."
Yeah.
They were making it seem like a bad thing out there that they were doing with the LA organization back in the day. I'm pretty sure it was worse than that, though, right? With probably what
Back
they
in the
went through doing.
70s and 80s,
hell
there was a lot of crazy things. There wasn't as many
Not
rules
just
as there
in
are
the
today.
NBA, right? Not just the NBA.
Yeah, the rules today were probably based on because of
What they
things back in the day. Because I
Well,
mean,
they
you're-
weren't making
you're-
any money back then.
and you're representing a brand as well. And it was more of a Wild West type thing. You can do whatever you want because
Yeah.
the NBA was in existence, obviously, but it wasn't mainstream.
Oh, that's where I was gonna go with that. So Hulk Hogan was on Logan Paul's podcast, and he said he was telling a story, but he was like, "Yeah, I was just sitting over there having my beers before the matches." And Logan starts laughing. He's like, "Having beers, like," and he's like, "Think about the times now. Like these guys nowadays are drinking Prime or they're refilling their bodies before they go out there and wrestle." And Hogan was over there having beers before he went out there and fought Andre the Giant at WrestleMania, man. You can't do that nowadays at all in any sport.
Well, there's a lot of
trade
sponsorships
you.
and endorsements now that you have to be drinking Red Bull or
Oh my
these
goodness.
different energy drinks and stuff, and you have to wear certain shoes. Back in the day, you can wear whatever shoes you wanted. I mean, but now I see even the Spurs wearing pink shoes and orange shoes and stuff. I'm like, what are we doing? Because it's all about,
Yeah.
what are we talking about? It's all about the money,
It's all about the
the
money.
endorsements and the sponsorships, and who's putting banners up in the Frost Bank Center and who's paying the most. And you even see on the jerseys now,
Yeah.
all these different corporate
I was
entities
very. I mean, look at WWE now too. They're putting the logos on the mat now. Like Vince was pissed. I'm sure he's pissed right now
I think
seeing
it
that.
takes
I'm
away-
a little upset about that too. Like putting the logos on the jersey, putting logos on the ring.
Yeah.
But I see it now as well because like we're doing it now for my basketball teams.
I get it, but it just seems not as genuine
exactly
as it did. Because now there's money involved, and whenever you see these banners and logos, there's somebody is paying for it.
I couldn't imagine, because like I said, I'm gonna go see Metallica in a couple weeks. If Lars is wearing like a
Chick-fil-A
Chick-fil-A
or
shirt or something,
what?
it's gonna drive me nuts.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen a band do that, right?
Yeah.
So why are sports guys doing it, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
But that's not too far fetched, Robert. You might
Yeah.
see today's concert is sponsored by Chick-fil-A,
yeah.
and it's Smashing Pumpkins or Metallica or something. Or
Where you
whatever.
gonna go see him at? Where you see? Where
It's
you,
out in
where you-
Houston somewhere.
Houston?
Yeah. So I don't
Okay.
know where.
Man, I've seen him twice.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I
twice.
saw him Lollapalooza once.
Yeah.
And I saw him at South Park Meadows. You
Okay.
remember South Park?
Yeah.
In between San Marcos and Austin.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it's a big mall now, but great venue.
AT&T Center. Where else did I see them at? I'm gonna lie to you if I say something. So I don't remember the second place I saw them, but dude, they can put on a damn show. Them and Slipknot, man. I
Yeah.
love watching Slipknot. When the drummer goes upside down, what is he just seatbelted in there, bro? Do you know how
Yeah.
to do that shit?
Tommy Lee started that
Oh, really?
with Motley Crue. Yeah.
Okay,
But yeah, it's like a harness. It's like
Right.
it's like a roller coaster harness.
that's so cool.
They put it on. I've always wanted to do it.
Really?
I've never been able to find them.
I saw Tommy Lee has a podcast now. I saw a little reel the other day.
Does he really?
Yeah, or he was a guest. I saw him, but he's still
I'm
relevant.
pretty sure he's a guest.
Tommy Lee.
I don't think he would be a host. Good host.
Pam Anderson. Yeah, on the boat, and that's a whole nother.
Hard to believe he's still alive.
Yeah, he's got to be like 60 something.
Yeah.
Right?
But the amount of damage he must have done to his body at this point.
So hopefully he has a
Yeah.
will and trust and
Yes.
an estate plan, because there's a lot of
That's gonna be a
assets, I'm
mess.
sure,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that he has.
When it comes to music royalties, oh my goodness, please if you have anything like that, any kind of copyrights, all that kind of stuff, business interests, that's a big one. It's a big one. Your business is separate. Whole idea is we create LLCs to separate our business from our personal assets. Well, guess what? Your LLC now needs an estate plan too.
Wow.
We need to know where that goes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's going to be frozen up for good. So we really need to have that lined up. So another example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a real world, and it's a real thing going on.
It absolutely is, man. I hope people learn something today for sure.
Robert, it's been an honor and a pleasure having you on today.
It's been a pleasure working with you guys.
yeah.
If anybody, it's their first time watching Social Plug, these guys have treated me graciously. I mean, they've been just wonderful, so easy to work with. So definitely recommend you guys, for people to
Thank you.
check it
Thank
out.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, we even had the rose petals for you when you came through the door.
Yeah, I like that.
I do want to give a shout out to my brother. Let me give you a little background here. So I haven't talked to my brother in about 12 to 13 years, and I talked to him a few weeks ago. He's not doing well. He's at UCLA Hospital right now as we speak. He's awaiting a heart transplant. So he's got some smart people and some supportive people around him, helping him medically and just overall support system. And it's crazy how many ailments and things that he's had in his life. He's had cancer. He's had car accidents. He's had strokes. He's had so many things. So he's kind of like a cat, 9 lives, and I think he's gone through about 15 lives already. And so he's a strong guy. He perseveres through a lot of things. He's a warrior. He's a fighter, and he's back in my life. And we got word this past weekend that he is going to have a heart transplant. So, because he has a bad heart, doctor says it's going about 20% out of 100. So that's pretty bad. So we're pulling for him, and we're praying for him, and I talk to him as often as I can. But they found a potential match, and it's unfortunate when you get these hearts and other organs, somebody has to pass away for you to get these vital organs, whether it be a heart, a liver, whatever gets transitioned over. So Jimmy Garcia, we're pulling for you. We love you, and keep on chugging. Hopefully, we'll have you on our podcast soon, virtually. Maybe we can fly you into San Antonio. Who knows? Maybe we can go out to LA and do a show there. JRock, I'm sure you'd be down to do a show out in the Hollywood and UCLA area.
Yesterday.
So, today's show is sponsored by the great people at Top Flight Realty Group. If you're looking for somebody to help you plan and mentor you through the real estate selling, buying, investing process, Jessica Martinez at Top Flight Realty Group is your gal. She's experienced, she's proactive, great communicator, and she knows her stuff. You can reach her at 210-875-0834, Top Flight Realty Group, brokered by JLA Realty. And with that said, you are unplugged. Actually, before we unplug, where can we find you, sir?
So definitely give us a call, 830-515-5854. It's the Davidek Law Firm. One of the things I promised my my social media person up at the office that I would do a little plug.
Okay, plug it away.
So we are in the running. So we've been nominated as Best of Comal County for the past 5 years, and voting just started a couple days ago.
Okay.
So if anybody out there has worked with us or just likes what they hear, you want to go vote for us for Best of Comal County, it's Davidek Law Firm. We're over on Seguin Street, kind of near the roundabout. So best thing to do is to give us a call so we can kind of discuss the steps moving forward. And that's 830-515-5854.
Very awesome, sir. And we're going to vote for you.
I appreciate
I
it.
won't vote for anybody else. So now, with that said, you were unplugged from the Social Plug Podcast, where we connect you to level up, and we'll see you next time.